Large double-O gauge layouts that could inspire you to build an exhibition model railway during lockdown. Part 6 of my inspiration series showed you how you can participate in a large project as an individual. If you haven't seen it yet, check out the link above. Hi, I'm Andrew Gebby. You're watching the Heritage and Model Rail channel. And if this is the first time to this channel, become a subscriber. And don't forget the bell icon so that you can be notified when new content appears. This double-O gauge layout is Alloa, exhibited by the Scottish Region Study Group. Alloa is the county town of Clackmannanshire and situated between Dunfermline and Stirling, lying to the north of the River Forth and to the south of the Ochil Hills. It was a busy junction with lines to Stirling and Alva to the west, Dunfermline and Kincardine to the east, north to Perth via the Devon Valley line, and Larbert, Falkirk and Grangemouth to the south. There was also a branch to Alloa Harbour. In the period modelled, Alloa boasted 35 daily passenger services. Freight was dominated by coal traffic serving the nearby mines. The model of Alloa recreates as faithfully as possible the bustling hub and variety of the late 1950s and early 1960s, and took 5 years of patient planning and construction to complete. The track work is Scaleway Code 75 on cork underlay, and all the points are handmade. Full Gear X point motors are utilised throughout, and the electrics are standard 12V DC common return. All the semaphore signals, built from etched brass MSE components, are fitted with bounce mechanisms and operate using modules from embedded controls. 3 control panels operate the model, 2 at the rear for the fiddle yards and the main panel for operating the scenic part. 5 operators are required, working as 2 pairs, 1 front and 1 back for each of the up and down lines, and 1 for the station yard. All buildings are scratch built. Detailed working drawings were created as a template for their construction, and the superstructure of the larger buildings is either Foamex or thin MDF overlaid with plasticard using double-sided tape, then detailed to match the original buildings. Considerable research was undertaken into the locomotives working the lines around Alloa, and an extensive list drawn up. With an abundance of coal traffic, X, NB and LNER 6-coupled J35, J36, J37 and J38 and WD locos feature prominently. But Alloa also enjoyed a huge number and variety of visiting locos on other traffic, and particularly when the routes were used as a diversion due to engineering works on other lines. Locos and rolling stock are a mixture of kit built and details ready to run, suitably weathered. This double-O gauge layout is Edgeworth Street, exhibited by Greg Marshall. Edgeworth Street is an ambitious modern image double-O layout for the exhibition circuit. The track layout is designed for the signalling and operation side. I was fortunate enough to speak to Greg at the show, who gave me some more information.
So basically Edgeworth Street firstly come around is obviously I belong to the Beckenham and West Wickham Model Railway Club, and unfortunately we had to get rid of one of our modern image exhibition layouts, and obviously I tried to take as many of the bits that I liked about the layout and other layouts that I've seen going to exhibitions. So I then started to build Edgeworth Street. So what we then decided to do is it was based in the Midlands, because I've got a lot of Midland stock. So 170s, 158s, Voyagers, rail treatment trains, bubble cars and other rolling stock alike. So we decided to build 3 platforms, a head shunt. We've got a nice diesel depot area with a shed. We've got a carriage wash sidings. We've got 2 really long sidings which we tend to put in like RRVs, rail treatment trains like MPVs, a load of rolling stock like locos, 68s, 66s, 57s, 47s, and then we've got a lovely little fuel point down the far end of the layout. and obviously we use a nice unique track circuiting colour light signalling system, so it basically gives that real effect to what it is like out on the real railway.
How big is it?
So the layout first started off at 24 foot, and in 6 years it's actually grown to 33 foot by 8 foot by 16, so it's in like almost like a U shape.
Okay, and how wide's the scenic?
So the scenic section boards are 2 foot wide.
And how many boards is that?
So we've altogether, there's just over 16 boards for the whole layout.
Yeah. Back scene?
Back scene is 6mm ply, just screwed onto the back, so it acts as a barrier.
I'm seeing those bits there. Are they?
Oh yeah. So basically, where the station is, obviously, I've made some back of warehouses. So obviously we've done that via 3D printer.
Buildings, are they scratch or kit?
So I've used a mixture of some Batman scene craft, some Hornby Scowdow, a couple of plastic kits, and some of them are actually scratch built. So I've used a mixture of all of them to try and give that variation of not everything's out of the box. Some stuff I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours doing.
Your track, what's your track?
So the track is Pico Code 100, and then what I've done is I've used Engage Jarvis ballast to try and get that fine detail, so you can see the nice richness of the ballast. And then after that, what I've then done is obviously I've used a humble spray can and a weathering gun to actually spray it all down, so it gives you that dirty, dull look of the track work.
Points, what are they?
Points are Code 100, Pico again, and we've also used PM1 point motors by Gauge Master.
What's your stock?
So I use a very mixture of Batman, Hellgen, Dapol. We do a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff I've used some Hornby as well. See, I tend to try a little bit of conversions and bits and pieces on some stuff. So I try and make sure that we've got the odd type of locos that most people have never seen before, because obviously deliveries and that's what I like to bring. You know, the odd livery locos.
Okay. Control system, what's your control system?
The control system we use is the lens system. We predominantly use the lens LH100. We have 90s as well, but we also be able to use the touch cab system, which basically means you'll be able to use a smartphone like an iPhone or an Android. So it gives that opportunity for the guy who's operating the yard at the front. He can actually use it and walk up and down the layout without having to drag a wire with him or trip over. So it's a really good way of trying to get kids involved and trying to bring that technology forward in the hobby.
Operation, how many guys do you need to operate it?
So I tend to normally have a team of 10. At any one time I tend to have 8 on the layout at any one time to just basically just keep trains running. So we have one of the signalmen. He controls all the signals, all the points. I have a driver that drives the trains from the feeder yard into the station. I then have someone driving from the station back round to the feeder yard, and then I have 3 people in the feeder yard just changing the stock, getting them all around, and then I have one person out the front, obviously operating the yard, and then we have one person that's in control of the layout to basically just try and make sure that we're all running smoothly.
This 00 gauge layout is Bournemouth West, exhibited by the South Coast Model Railway Development Group. Bournemouth West models the southern terminus of the Somerset and Dorset Railway, which closed in 1965. The layout is built at 00 gauge and is based in the 1959-1962 period. As well as being the terminus for the trains travelling to Bournemouth over the Somerset and Dorset line from Bath, it was also the terminus for the holiday and cross-country traffic from the North and Midlands. It was used as a terminus for London Waterloo trains using the LSWR route. Many of these trains were split at Bournemouth West, the other portion going to Weymouth. Other services operated from here to Salisbury, together with push-pull trains to Brockenhurst via Wimborne. Measuring 35 feet by 12 feet across 16 boards, the scenic area is 35 feet long, with an extended fiddle yard to the rear of the layout. Using photographs and drawings, we have attempted to portray the station as it was in this period. The layout is built to 00 fine-scale standards, using C&L-TRAK. All points are hand-built. Buildings are in the main scratch-built, we use a digital control system which allows us to set routes in and out of the station, operate using sound and gives us an automatic uncoupling function. Signals are all scratch built and fully operational with slow action and bounce. We are also operating some of our colleagues' locomotives, which are fitted with smoke, fully synchronised with the wheel revolutions. The layout has a crew of 7 with a minimum of 5 to run to a set sequence to represent a typical working day in 1960. Here you can view the layout Cadden Bay, modelled in 00 gauge and exhibited by the Glenrothes Model Railway Club. Okay, so I'm here with Stephen from the Glenrothes Model Railway Club.
Well, Cadden Bay is basically a fictional layout, but ideas have been drawn from places within Fife and further afield, such as Arbroath Harbour, etc. It's a double low gauge. The layout is actually about 36 feet in length. Buildings are a combination of scratch built and kits. Some of the kits have been bought, but they've been converted to suit the design. The biggest building on the layout is the Bayview Hotel. That was a scratch build, and that took about 2 years to construct. Based from sort of mid-90s right through to modern day.
I know you've got some interesting features on there with the burning buildings and so on. So how have you put all those together?
Right, the burning building, the actual building itself is made up from various kits. The actual smoke is using what they call a smoky generator. That was obtained from March Model Bits down in Wales. It's originally designed for a boat, for puffing out steam on a boat, and we actually adapted it to suit the layout where it's actually blown up through the building and out over the top.
How many operators do you have to keep it going?
We can run by a minimum of 3, but ideally we need the 4th person at the front as the picker-upper if there's anything, because we can't reach the front of the layout from the back.
Do you run to any particular schedule, or is it just on a first come first served basis?
First come first served. Each operator operates their section independently, and it's just basically one train goes out, comes back in, one in, one out basically.
How long did it take to put together?
It took about 2.5 to 3 years to actually get the layout constructed before it went to an exhibition. It's coming on for about 7 years now on the circuit now, the exhibition circuit. Right. Generally it works okay. Occasionally you get a few electrical problems, but it's like every layout, your good days and your bad days.
You can view the following layout Almond Bridge here, modelled in 00 gauge and exhibited by the Perth Model Railway Group. Almond Bridge is a fictional location situated somewhere in mainland Britain and is set in modern times, covering the period from the 1980s to the current day scene. This time frame allows for the display of rolling stock from the British Rail blue-grey era to the ever-changing liveries of the privatised railway companies which currently operate throughout the UK. Whilst the town name is fictitious, the main track plan is loosely based on that at Stirling, circa 2003, and Modeller's licence has been liberally applied to add additional tracks, a loco refuelling stabling point, permanent way and commercial freight sidings and platforms. The track and point motors are standard Pico. The buildings are proprietary card and plastic kits modified to fit the scene. The 9-arch viaduct was made by utilising and adapting 3 proprietary card single-line viaduct kits glued onto a wooden and ply frame. The girder bridge is built around a wood frame and pillars, using multiple plastic kits for the superstructure. The storage yard baseboards have been built as a universal unit and can be used in a 4, 5 or 6 board configuration, depending on the requirements of the display layout. This eliminates the need to build separate storage yards for future display layouts, which may be shorter than Almond Bridge. This 00 gauge layout is Wholeside, exhibited by the Clyde Model Railway Club. Wholeside is inspired by the suburban station of Newton, situated some 10 kilometres southeast of Glasgow Central on the West Coast Main Line. Newton no longer has platform faces on the main lines, but remains a busy station for services via Hamilton and terminating services from Glasgow Central High Level via the Cathcart Circle. Compromises that were required precluded calling the layout Newton. The main compromise is a fairly severe compression of layout length. For those with either a good memory or knowledge of the area, the whole area on the south side of the station was the location of a steelworks. This was called Wholeside Works and gives the name to identify the location of the model. The layout measures 22 feet by 11 feet, including the fiddle yard. Buildings are scratch built. Track is Pico Code 75 in the scenic area and Code 100 in the fiddle yard. Control is DCC by lens, with some locos chipped for sound. Stock is a mixture of Hornby, Bachmann and Dapper. Ideally there are 4 operators, but the layout can be controlled by 2. Here you can view the layout Maxwell Colliery loading point in 00 gauge and exhibited by Max Fowler. This layout covers the period of recent train-loaded coal. Locomotives pull up with empty wagons and are filled from a rapid loading tower so that they can pull out with a full train. The layout is built in a U shape with 3 fiddle yards, one at one end and the other 2 on track spurs. Using open frame construction, the area covered is 28 feet by 16 feet and needs 6 people to operate. The colliery tower is scratch built, with the remaining buildings being kit built by Metcalfe. There is a manual hopper located at the back of the tower to allow filling of the coal wagons. The tower lifts off easily to facilitate cleaning of spilt coal. Track is Pico Code 75 and control is DCC using ZTC. Stock is a mixture of Hornby and Bachmann. The air exhibition is the layout's last appearance in this form, as it is being split up into 2 smaller sections. My thanks to Max for the information. This 00 gauge layout is Elliott Bridge, exhibited by Stirling and Clackmannanshire District Model Railway Club. Elliott Bridge was a layout inspired following a family holiday in the Buxton and Chesterfield area of central England, seeing various freight and passenger trains working there. Planning the layout included areas of double track and passing loops, a small station and a distribution point on the lower section, and a bridge crossing on the river, all set in a countryside location. A 4th track top area to suit conventional stock users and a low level with single track and a smaller fiddle yard is included, so club members wishing to use DCC fitted locomotives could also enjoy using the layout. Layout boards were constructed using 3-inch and 1-inch timbers and 1/2-inch plywood, for the top was glued and screwed. These boards sit on CLS timber legs and are fixed using bolts and captive nuts. Transportation of the layout to exhibitions was a big consideration in the design of Elliott Bridge. The tracks were laid out and the landscape formed using polystyrene, which was glued to the boards. The river running under the bridge was created using very fine river sand, glued down with PVA glue and varying sizes of stone added. A small weir was formed at the rear and coated with varnish to create a dull riverbed. The track and points are all Pico. Point motors are of various types and on the fiddle yard are surface mounted, but on other parts of the layout they are fitted using underneath Fulgurex point motors. Coloured lights are fitted using the Traintronic system. The working semaphore signals are all hand-built by club members, and these look realistic on the lower sections, as does the level crossing. There are 2 control panels which control the track and fiddle yard area on the upper level. A 3rd controller for the DCC lower track and fiddle yard are also required. 3 operators are required to work the layout and a 4th person to maintain the fiddle yard. The stock on Elliott Bridge is detailed and weathered, including locomotives from Hornby, Bachmann, Wagons are a mixture of Hornby, Bachmann and Apple. My thanks to Jeff for providing the information. This 00 gauge layout is called Hills of the North, the Spirit of Shap, and is exhibited by Graham Nicholas. The main line over Shap's summit in the Cumbrian Fells has been an irresistible draw for generations of railway enthusiasts. The layout attempts to recreate something of the atmosphere in the classic steam era, including a recreation of the banking arrangements that were employed to assist the heavier trains up the incline. The layout has been built on a gradient so that the trains really do have to climb the bank. The layout takes 3 places on the climb of Shap Bank and blends them into one continuous scenic presentation some 35 feet long. In the uphill direction, trains enter the scene under the Greenholme Road Bridge. This then transforms into the classic location on the prolonged embankment at Shap Wells. The trains then enter a sizable cutting before passing the sidings and signal box at Shap Summit itself. Here any bankers employed drop off the rear of the train before crossing over to return down the bank towards T-Bay. The scenic work attempts to capture the bleak open moorland setting with plenty of dry stone walls and few trees. A graduated forced perspective approach has been applied behind the main line to blend into the back scene. Working signals are installed, including the distinctive intermediate block colour light signal at Shap Wells. Starting in the 1950s Crimson and Cream era, the full range of iconic ex-LMS Stanier steam fleet can be seen at work, with famous trains such as the Royal Scot, Midday Scot and the Caledonian featured. By the late 1950s, maroon liveried stock is much in evidence, with BR standard types also at work. Here you can view the 00 gauge layout, Tullygarth, exhibited by Stirling and Clackmannan District Model Railway Club. Tullygarth is a layout set somewhere in the Highlands of Scotland. Tullygarth features an island platform in its station, which caters for both passenger and freight. The layout has been recently modified to form an efficient fiddle yard, and the stock being used will represent the 1985 to 1990 era. This 00 gauge 4mm scale layout is Overlord, exhibited by Chris Mead. As with the Great War some 30 years previously, the railways also played a key role in World War II, transporting people and material throughout the country, dispersing the returning troops rescued from Dunkirk, evacuating children from the London Blitz, and moving the men and material from their depots and assembly areas to the embarkation points for the D-Day landings of June 1944, codenamed Overlord, from which the layout gets its name. Based loosely on Southampton and Portsmouth dockyards, the layout attempts to depict the hectic quayside activities to be found at many of the southern ports of England in the days surrounding the invasion of Normandy. Much of the variety and confusion of the moment are displayed. Tanks await loading, mechanised infantry columns search for their embarkation point. There are specialist vehicles such as bridge layers, rocket launchers, mine clearers and amphibious tanks needed to ensure the success of the landings. Landing ships of various sizes, together with the vital support of escorting destroyers, launches and torpedo boats, prepare to put to sea. Overhead, gliders make their way south, watched over by the wafts on the anti-aircraft guns and barrage balloon. And finally, there are tea ladies of the NAFI, providing a continuous supply of drinks to the nervous troops. Although the layout has been exhibited for a number of years, we are still adding to it. For those who may have seen it before, new at this time are sections of the Mulberry Harbour, the floating port towed across the channel, and Pluto, the underwater fuel pipeline which powered the Allied advance from the hard-won beachhead through France, Belgium, Holland and ultimately over the Rhine. Check out other content that I have by selecting the playlist. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you there.